Traditionally served with a shot of fruit syrup, Berliner Weisse is a real classical German sour beer. So let's check it out. Hey, welcome back to Views on Brews. I'm Brendan, and this is Brewery's Blurry Furry Berliner Weisse. The beer itself is a blueberry Berliner Weisse. It's got a bit of interesting information on the back of it. But Berliner Weisse is a real traditional northern German soured beer. Modern breweries are taking back on this style now that people are more used to the flavors of beer, and it's more an approachable style now when people want to try all different kinds of tastes and flavors. This one has the urban jungle design on the side of it. Hopefully you can see that there if I'm not holding it up too high. And then it's got a really interesting bit on the back. What is that design? I love the designs on these cans. I think that's one of the really, really good things about Brewery is that they've got two separate sets of beers. They've got a core range and they've got this urban jungle range. The urban jungle range is for people who want to really explore beer a little bit more in depth, and the core range is for those core beers that you want to always go back to, because you know that they're always going to be consistently the same, they're always going to be available. So the urban jungle series, let me just read this on the back. Range celebrates Brewery's adventurous side. Find your spirit animal with Urban Jungle. A modern interpretation of this classic Berliner Weisse style. Blurry Furry is a tart wheat beer, but Berliner Weisse is a tart sour beer. It's soured with lactic acid in some way or description. Delightfully sour and intensely refreshing. Drinkers can expect an easy drinking beer with a head of creamy foam. That's interesting that there's a head on this beer. Mild spiciness from the Weizen yeast. Okay, so Weizen yeast is the spiciness. I'm guessing that strain of yeast has phenolic flavors to it. So there might be elements of clove in there, or some sort of high sort of spice from the yeast, which is going to make this beer even more interesting to drink. Mild spiciness from the Weizen yeast and a rounded mouthfeel coming from the wheat. And that's the other thing about the Berliner Weisse. Most German beers you see, a lot of them, I should say, contain wheat. And if you're doing a Weizen beer or some sort of Weizenbock or a Weiss beer, they all roughly contain between 30 and 50% wheat. Some of them contain just 100% wheat. Now, I'm sure this has different things in it, but we'll just carry on reading the back for a second there. This style is traditionally served with a shot flavoured syrup, which is the other thing I was going to say. So we've added blueberry purees and extract just before packaging. So they've probably put the blueberry puree into this beer just before packaging. So you would have to have stopped the fermentation side of it, or that puree would carry on fermenting. The sugar in the puree would carry on fermenting in the can, potentially have can bombs. So some way they've halted the fermentation capability of this beer when it's after packaged. Purees just and extract. So they've added puree, but they've also added extract. They've obviously wanted to make this a very super blueberry flavour to it. I'm all for adding extracts to beer as long as they complement the flavour and don't present themselves as a manufactured flavor rather than an actual flavor. So you might get like coffee syrups that you might find in a coffee a cafe, you know, that are added to coffees, you know, their syrups, they have flavoring in them. You might get like something like hazelnut or vanilla or caramel. Those can be really good in homebrew beers because essentially you're getting the essence of something. But if it just tastes like a manufactured, man-made flavor, that wouldn't be good because you're actually making a beer. And I've had beers that have come out like that, and they're totally nice, but you just feel like it's not an authentic flavor. So the extract in this is going to probably support the blueberry flavors, and I'm interested now to find out what that part is like. As with all of their beers, they've got a malt meter on the back and a hop meter, but the hop meter has been changed to a fruity meter. I don't know if that means fruity sour or means you know, maybe they needed a third one to say how sour this is going to be. Berliner Weisse, I think I'm right in saying traditionally, isn't meant to be puckeringly sour. It's meant to be pleasantly soured with lactic acid. Now, Lactobacillus is added into this in some way, shape or form. You may have some knowledge of Lactobacillus, or you may have no knowledge of Lactobacillus, but I can tell you Lactobacillus lives in all of us and it helps our digestive systems. It's probiotic, and you might have heard probiotic used in yogurt adverts because there's lactobacillus in yogurt. So that's the kind of acidity that works really well in balance with fruit that you're going to get from this beer. So anyway, that's the spiel. Let's crack it open. She's lively. I've had this one out the fridge 10 minutes. Now, I did a little bit of reading up on history of Berliner Weisse. It's a style that there was, you know, in Berlin, there was over a couple of hundred breweries all just producing, or a couple of hundred different Berliner Weisses in and around the area. Yeah, so I've done a little bit of digging around about, you know, what I should serve this in. So I got this glass out because it's from Brew, but actually it doesn't seem like the right kind of glass for me to put it into. So I looked up online, and apparently it's classically served in a bowl glass. What is a bowl glass? The nearest thing I can think to it is like a snifter. So maybe this is that. Maybe you can let me know in the comments down below. Now, they do say that there's a head of foam on this beer. I'm guessing the wheat element to it and the fact that it's not overly soured has allowed this beer to have the incredible head that it does have on it. I'm pretty surprised it has such a nice head on it. Mountains of carbonation. This is a really highly carbonated style of beer, and it's a low alcohol style of beer. This one is 3, I think it's 3 somewhere, is it? 3.8%. I think Berliner Weisse is in and around 2.5 to 3.8% as a style, and this is right on the higher edge of that. Probably they were trying, when making this recipe, they were probably trying to get the most amount of body into the beer that they could. Take a look at that beer there. It's pouring, I want to say, it's kind of like elements of pinkish colours through it. Pinkish and very pale pastel red, but it's hardly red at all. It's more sort of pinky orange, in fact. So yeah, beautiful sort of element. It's got little bits of salmon on the edge of the colouring, but it's a really, really nice looking beer with a beautiful, soft, pillowy looking head on the top of it. The beer is popping. I can hear it fizzing away, but it's still managing to maintain its head. So that's actually really good. So they've gotten good marks on that. On the nose, straight away, if you haven't put your nose into a punnet of blueberries before, it's actually really interesting to note that blueberries have a kind of a perfume to them. if you get, the next time you go to the supermarket and you pick up a punnet of blueberries, just get 2 or 3 of them and crush them up and then smell them. The aromas they give off, because you don't really think of blueberries having too much of an aroma, but they have this really fragrant perfume, sort of like a floral perfume to them, and there's mountains of it on this on the nose on this beer. Like, it's unmistakably, and I'm sure that maybe the extract has supported that, but it feels like this is going to taste really, really nice and of blueberries. I get a touch of sweetness on the nose. Like, I know that there's going to be a bit of a malty sort of there's malty sweetness on the nose. It's coming through as like a doughy wheat beer, but I know it's going to be like that anyway. There is wheat and there is barley in this beer. The hops in a Berliner Weisse should be non-existent. The hops actually inhibit the souring quality of the Lactobacillus, so you have to keep them right down to a minimum. This is going to be a light, tart, refreshing, sour beer. Anyway, cheers, sláinte, and a special thanks to Francesco in Brewery, who sent me this beer. As always, I will only and always give my honest opinions of beer. Anything I do or anything that I think I can add a bit of constructive critique to, I will. But we're only doing positive on this channel. Decided that. You can check out the beer trailer on the front of the YouTube page. And you know, feel free to share this content, like, share, and subscribe. It will really be much appreciated by me. Anyway, cheers. Oh, that is so dry and so refreshing. It's just delightful to drink. It really, really is. It's the sort of beer that it's so well attenuated that it dries out in the mouth instantly and has that satiating effect. Like, it really fills a need for, you know, to satiate your thirst. And every single sip is like that. Dries straight out on the mouth. And just sort of, there's like a tingly fizziness to this beer. When you drink it, it's drying out and it's just fizzing away on the tongue. It's almost like melting away into nothing. And there's very little to no hops in it. So it's not down to bitterness. It's down to just the lightness of the beer, the sourness of this beer, the tart sort of effervescing quality. Very, very nice indeed. Look at that head. Spun it straight back up. There's like the faintest tinge of pink coming through the head on this beer. This is a really, really, really good beer. So the blueberries in it, the blueberries are full of really interesting perfume aromas, but they're not overtaking the beer. The beer is in there somewhere. You get this very, very gentle, doughy character that just sort of blends in the background. In the same way, you get a nice Pilsner character in the background of a tropical hopped Nipah. It's just supporting, but there is a little bit more wheat coming through. So what does it say, actually, the maltiness on this? Yeah, it does say the maltiness is around the 60% mark. So the fruity element to this beer on their meter on the back is 100%. Malty is up to 60%. A very, very pleasing drink this is. And such a sessionable 3.8%. I love it when beers are approachable in the sense that, you know, you're not a little bit tipsy after the first 1 or 2 pints. You could have 3 or 4 cans of this on a school night. Not that you necessarily would, but it's only 3.8%. You know, if you have a 7%, you know, American IPA, you're nearly having 2 of these in one go. Let's talk a little bit more about the flavour of it. It is a really pinky colour, as I've taken a little bit out. Salmony, pinky, orange, almost luminescent sort of flavour, colour into this beer. Nice aroma of blueberries on the nose, a little bit doughy sweet on the nose. I'm glad I put it in this glass as opposed to this thing here. The acidity in this beer isn't so much that it makes your cheeks pucker up at all. Acidity is just a very pleasant, like in terms of like a percentage, it might be, you might say it's around 30 to 40% acidic. It's so enjoyable. It feels like the acidity is just a perfect way of presenting the beer. Medium light body, perfumey, slightly doughy from the wheat. It's just fantastic. It's a really, really nice beer. I'm going to sip this one gently now and then crack on to another beer. But in my view of this brew, this is absolutely super, super, super enjoyable. Lightly tart, soured, full of blueberry aromas and flavours. Not a heavy mouthfeel, not overly acidic. Nice and light doughy character to it. Very approachable style considering it's a Berliner Weisse. It's a cracking beer. Anyway, that's my view on this brew. I'm going to sip the rest of it now, and I will then, I think I can just crack on and do another beer review straight after this one. Anyway, cheers, sláinte, all that good stuff, and I will see you on to the next one. Bye.
Love.